What's up, guys? Helen here to talk about the film that convinced you to create a new fake Gmail account so you could try to nab another one of those recently discontinued HBO Max trials. That's right, Wonder Woman 1984. Now, like most of you, we were big fans of the first Wonder Woman, and were naturally stoked about the sequel. And while plenty of people thought the movie was fun, others were a little disappointed. And while people might want to nitpick plot holes or action sequences, we at Wisecrack thought we'd try to learn something about screenwriting by asking the question, Wonder Woman 1984, what went wrong? And, of course, spoilers ahead for a brand new movie and a rather old British story. But before we get into it, I wanted to take a second to tell you about Wisecrack's Patreon page, which is sort of like a secret island of highly trained Amazons, but for people who can't help but search for meaning in pop culture. So, nothing like a secret island of highly trained Amazons. But hey, you can join for as little as $2, which is also how much it cost for a set of snap bracelets back in 1984. Along with early access to ad-free versions of all of our videos, patrons have access to our Discord, a place to compare notes about recent videos, share memes that only a Wisecrack fan would get, and to chat with Wisecrack hosts and writers about what they're watching, reading, and playing. It also gets you access to exclusive hangouts, where we talk about recent videos, what we're currently working on, and occasionally chat about our ideal lunches. So go to patreon.com/wisecrack or click the link in the description to join today. Oh, and did we mention ad-free videos? That's patreon.com/wisecrack. And now, back to the show. And now, a quick recap. Wonder Woman 1984 finds Diana living in that glitzy decade, working as an archaeologist at the Smithsonian. There, she and her anxious, supposedly unlikable new friend Barbara study a seemingly worthless stone that promises to grant wishes. Each lady makes a wish. Diana that her dead boo Steve was still alive, and Barbara that she was more like Diana. And, surprise, their wishes come true. But the stone is stolen by badman Max Gold, who basically wishes for 1,000 wishes.
I wish to be you, the dream stone itself.
But, of course, there's a catch. The stone giveth, and it also taketh. Diana loses her powers, Barbara her humanity, and Max the moist air entering his nostrils. Oh, and maybe also his kid. Then Max goes full Oprah on wish granting, sending the world into chaos. And it's up to Wonder Woman to stop him. Not with violence, but with the truth. Now, lots of people have their various reasons for liking or disliking this film. But we think one of the best ways to look at the film's flaws is through its central narrative engine.
The monkey's paw.
Now, it doesn't take a film studies degree to see what the film is trying to say. It's pretty clearly telegraphed in the opening flashback, which sees a young Diana try to win an Amazonian race by taking a shortcut. Sneaky shortcuts, Robin Wright warns us, equal very, very bad.
You cheated, Diana.
But
That is the truth. That is the only truth, and truth is all there is.
Anyway, this quickly becomes a lens to view the greed is good mentality of the 1980s, or America's general love of get-rich-quick schemes and grifters.
Do you have everything you've ever wanted? Aren't you tired of always wishing you had more?
Get it? Cheating your way into wealth is just as bad as cheating in an Amazon race, and it's up to Diana to set the record straight.
This world was a beautiful place, just as it was. And you cannot have it all. You can only have the truth.
Now, for many at Wisecrack, this moment felt a little dumb. Like, after hearing those words, Bernie Madoff wept a single tear and apologized to all of his victims. But part of the reason it might have felt hollow is the nature of the wishing stone itself. Supposedly created by some sinister god, all we know is that it is indeed a trick, which gives you your wish while also taking away something very important to you. In this way, the stone is indeed a monkey's paw, as Steve rightly points out while casually possessing the apartment, body, and genitals of an innocent, unsuspecting engineer. But what even is a monkey's paw? Well, that term just so happens to come from a short story of the same name by British writer W.W. Jacobs. Published in 1902, the tale chronicles the unfortunate events that befall one family after they wish upon their friend's shriveled little monkey appendage. Despite being warned by said friend to pitch it on the fire again like a sensible man, the patriarch of the family, who notes that he has basically everything he needs in life, wishes for 200 pounds, because why dream big, right? The next day, their son dies in a factory accident, and the couple receives 200 pounds in whoopsies money from his employers. The distraught matriarch convinces her husband to use the second wish to bring their son back to life, But upon hearing the zombified son knocking at the door, the spooked out dad uses the third wish to kill him again. Yes, that's the end. And the moral of the story, careful what you wish for. The whole thing is basically a screed about not messing with fate. If the old man upstairs wants you to have $200 to blow on Funko Pops, he would have already turned your hot water back on. It has since, obviously, become a trope.
This aftershave made women want me, but it also made me impotent!
So how does Wonder Woman botch this trope? Well, if we consider the original simian wish fulfiller, some of Wonder Woman's problems reveal themselves. In the story, the father's wish is granted at the literal expense of his son's death, thus punishing him for wishing for anything in the first place. His son dies, he earns $200. Wish granted, you dummy, and next time, don't f with fate. The monkey's paw often works best when it uses narrative events to show the character that the thing they want, i.e. wish for, is not the thing they need, i.e. lose.
My lust! My greed! I deserve this!
Now, that's fitting, because a key screenwriting rule is to establish your character's want versus their need. Your poor character spends the whole movie pursuing their want, only to learn at the end that the conflicting need is more important. Like how in the 1988 Tom Hanks classic Big, he wants to grow up,
I wish I were big,
but needs to learn to appreciate his childhood. Monkey's paws are a supernatural vehicle to get characters to realize, sometimes tragically, what they really need instead of what they originally want. And this brings us to the thing about Wonder Woman that kind of bums us out. That's because the movie has very little of the cause and effect that can make Monkey's Paw's stories compelling. The Bialyan King of Crude's dilemma is probably the closest we get to a real Monkey's Paw situation. He asks to get his land back. This results in a wall being built.
I wish for things one cannot attain.
Like what?
All of my land to be returned.
Wish granted. But that wall cuts tons of people off from their homes and water supply and makes them want to kill him. We get real narrative consequences of his actions, a real careful what you wish for with some extra poetic justice. But even that's a little sloppy. The movie slaps on the additional consequence of Max stealing his security team. Diana's trade-off is a little more nonsensical. It seems like the filmmakers wanted to say, Diana wants her lover back, but she needs to accept the truth and not cheat at anything. Ever. And I swear to God, Diana, if you even think about hustling men at bars with arm wrestling challenges, the universe will take away your powers so fast. If bringing back your dead lover and consequently losing your powers seems a little random, well, it is. The idea is basically just lazily shoehorning the story into the classic superhero dilemma of how do you get laid more than once every 50 years while also successfully saving the world? Now, this dilemma is perfectly embodied in the narrative of Tobey Maguire-era Spider-Man, which puts superheroing into inherent conflict with being with Mary Jane.
She looks at me every day. Mary Jane Watson. Oh boy, if she only knew how I felt about her. But she can never know.
But in this film, it doesn't actually develop. Diana's wish doesn't cause a chain of events that happen to take away her powers. It's just a magical trade-off we have to kind of accept. And so, when Diana ugly cries over giving up Steve and instantly becoming strong, it feels kinda meh. For the film's main characters, the monkey's paw functions less as a be careful what you wish for because it might come true, and much more of a haphazard, trading one good thing for one random shitty thing. This is pretty clear in Barbara's trajectory. Now, early on, her character is depicted as a pathetic loser who magically becomes hot, likable, and able to walk in heels. But for wishing to be like Diana, the monkey's paw takes its payment in the form of stealing her humanity, aka turning her into a stone-cold violent asshole. But what's her sin in the first place? Accidentally wishing to be an immortal superhero? See, her initial wish, unlike asking for a nuclear arsenal or free money, seems so much less problematic.
I do know what I'd wish for. To be like Diana.
She doesn't want to be suddenly famous, she just wants to be strong, sexy, and liked by her coworkers. Not even in a Black Mirror-esque obsessed with your social score way, just like a normal human way. Her powers are completely accidental to the wish. So what really is the message? That she needs to just accept being sad, lonely Barbara about whom the office bros needlessly talk shit? Now, maybe the message is that Barbara needs to learn self-confidence the hard way, by scrolling through the social skills Reddit or going to an out-of-network therapist once a week. But the film doesn't say that. Instead, Diana is all,
Because you're not the only one who imagined a world where everything was different.
Basically, the message feels like Barbara should have just been content with her lot. Again, just kind of weird and even a little mean, and what, only Amazonians get to be popular? It's worth noting that the monkey's paw mechanics at the end of the film are a little bit better. People want unearned stuff with no regards for the consequences, and en masse, this narratively launches the world into a nuclear war.
Soviet's early detection system had picked up our new nukes.
What new nukes?
100 warheads just went online, ready to launch. They're taking this as an act of war, prepping to return fire.
So, greed is bad. Yay. But perhaps the strangest thing of all, there actually is a pretty interesting monkey's paw situation for Diana that's baked right into the plot. Now, we're not typically in the business of suggesting punch-ups, but indulge us this once. The screenwriter's choice to bring Steve back to life in another man's body has confounded the internet and made us a little existentially concerned. Is this guy still alive while this stone-cold hottie lives, breathes, and sexes in his body? Is he stuck in the white man's sunken place? It's never explained, and Wonder Woman, despite supposedly being the greatest, most moralist person in the world, seriously doesn't seem to give a fuck about romantically borrowing the body of a dude who is, for all intents and purposes, spiritually blackout drunk. But it actually really easily could have been explained. The real monkey's paw consequence all along could have been that Steve possessing another man's body was the careful what you wish for. That is to say, Diana's real struggle could have been whether or not she could possibly live with herself if she brought Steve back to life at the expense of a, by all accounts, perfectly nice-seeming engineer with a messy apartment. She wants her boyfriend back, but she needs to abide by her moral code of not doing a get-out.
I want your eye, man.
But the most interesting consequence of bringing Steve back to life is entirely and very awkwardly ignored. Instead, the stakes are incongruently just about Diana losing her powers and convincing everyone in the world to accept their lot because messing with fate can ruin your body, mind, soul, etc. And for everyone else's wants and needs, Barbara wants to be cool, but learns that she needs to accept being a nerd because the alternative is being a huge bitch. Steve wants to be with Diana, but he needs to be dead. Max Gold wants a ton of wealth, but learns that he needs his health? Oh, and also on top of that, he seems to randomly realize that he also super needs his son, a revelation that is basically mandated by Diana's lasso of truth. So, not exactly the most exciting character growth. While the film has been hailed in some reviews as being hopeful and optimistic about human nature, all we're really seeing is a superhero film in which the superhero makes the world a better place by magically convincing all humans to stop being greedy over the span of a mediocre speech that sounds like a yoga teacher's Instagram caption. I mean, if your suspension of disbelief wasn't already broken, it surely was now. We're not saying that every superhero film needs to be cranky about human nature in the end, but this movie puts a rose-colored lens over an ultimately actually very cynical worldview, which is that we should accept the shitness of our given lives because, as Diana puts it,
And you cannot have it all. You can only have the truth. And the truth is enough.
the film wants to put forward a critique of American avarice, get-rich-quick schemes, and the hucksters that run them, but it needs to figure out how to do that so that wishing to be likable isn't a cardinal sin. What's more, Diana's speech just feels kind of off. The truth in this imaginary 1984 world certainly doesn't seem beautiful. The president is a doddering fool who just wants more nukes.
What is there to wish for but more? More nuclear weapons, more than they have, closer to them. If I just had that in place, then they would have to listen to us.
The Middle East is a very simplistically rendered shit show, and there's plenty of domestic violence for good measure. The world may be pretty beautiful if you're a hot superhero Amazonian, but expecting everyone else to agree feels like...
Even now, patronizing me.
Did Wonder Woman 1984 miss the proverbial mark? And if so, was it because of the bizarre monkey's paw plotline? Or are we just grumpy because of the shitty vaccine rollout? Let us know in the comments. Big thanks to all our patrons for your support. Hit that subscribe button like your Christian wig, pretty viciously assaulting a low-key sex predator, and ring that bell like it's still Christmas. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.